As a beer traveler, some of my favorite breweries to visit are those in picture perfect small towns close to a nice waterfall hike. And when I have these adventures with my family, often some of the most amazing memories are created. Of course, I'm only there for maybe a few days at best. Running a brewery in a small town is tough, and it's had its own set of unique challenges and opportunities. Today, we're going to learn from our guests about how they've found success in a small town. Now, let's meet our panelists. And Clay, because you are to the right of me, you get to go first. I'd love to learn a little bit more about you, your brewery,
Okay.
and be sure to tell us how many people live in your town.
All right.
Approximately, of course.
Sounds good. My name is Clay Heisel. I'm the GM of Patch Brewing Company. We're in Gordonsville, Virginia. Population of 1436.
1436. I love how precise you are on that one.
Hey, gotta love Wikipedia.
And how long
Um,
have you been open?
we've been open for about 18 months. We had the great fortune of opening during COVID, and it's been 18 fun months so far. We're in a former VFW hall. So it's a little unusual in that respect, but we can see 175 inside and about 200 people outdoors.
Wow.
We've got 14 acres, a baseball field. We've got a 1 acre off leash dog park. Um, we've got a lot of space to grow. And fortunately, in a small town, there's a lot of space for us to grow. We're kind of have become like kind of the social center for this little town.
Wait, I think you went over it pretty quickly, but you said baseball field.
We have a baseball field. It
How
used
do
to
you
be the
use that
town's.
baseball
It
field? I don't
was.
want to get too ahead, but do you actually use it for things as part of brewery events?
It's going to be the site of our Bases Loaded Beer Festival in June, and then we use it for impromptu kickball. We've had what we call diamond dogs and turn the entire baseball field into a dog park for a few hours a week. We just take advantage of the space.
Very cool. We'll dive more into that in just a little bit. Kate, great to have you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. I'm Kate Bogley. My husband and I started the brewery at Mapleview Farm on our 50-acre family farm in 2019. We're in rural suburban Connecticut, so we're just north of Hartford. We've got, I feel like the big town among you because we've got about 10,000 people in Granby. So yeah, I hope to have something to add. I love Clay's ideas already.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun. Thanks for being here, Kate. And Sean, I think you were the inspiration for this panel. You and I were going back and forth on emails, and you said if you ever do a small town brewery panel, I'm in. So thanks for actually staying true to your word and being here.
Sure. So I'm Sean. I'm with Fergatania Brewing. We're in Macomb, Illinois, which is west central Illinois. Closest to us would be Quincy, Galesburg, Peoria. We're kind of sort of right in the middle of all of that. It's also a small college town. So we got Western Illinois University here and Spoon River College, which is a two-year technical school. We're just over 15,000 from the last census, and then for the county, 27,000.
So behind you, there's a really neat old-timey picture. Can you explain what I'm looking at and for everyone listening?
Sure. So back in the late 1960s, there was a group of concerned citizens because we were basically being left out of all of the infrastructure being happening. So the highways were being built at that time, and we were left out of all of that. So they dubbed this 16 county Forgatonia. The idea was a satirical protest. They were going to secede, declare war, immediately surrender, and then apply for foreign aid. From that, they had put out a bunch of posts. It was picked up. So in the archives of the university's library, you can find newspapers all the way from New York to California that were putting it out. You can even go on the History Channel. They did a series of shows called The Forgotten States of the U.S., and we were one of the, of course, forgotten states.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing all that history. And what year did you say that all happened?
It was late 1960s.
Wow. I mean, that's not too long ago, honestly.
No, and we're kind of doing the same thing now. So we're kind of perpetuating that whole idea and trying to put a positive focus on this area.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Now, last but not least, Tim, you're up.
Hey, I'm Tim from G5. We're in Beloit, Wisconsin, so we're right on the Wisconsin-Illinois border, right in the middle, south of Madison. We are the biggest town in the panel. We have approximately 40,000 if you kind of draw a circle around Beloit. And we started in 2019. Sounds pretty similar to everybody else's story. And, we are kind of up and running with a 10-barrel brew house and trying to plug along and figure everything out.
Well, I swear I didn't plan to go in order from smallest to largest, but that's just the way it worked out. So once again, I appreciate all of you joining us today. And an interesting thing about breweries, if you go to a large city, a brewery can say make the haziest of hazy IPAs, and that's their target audience. But for you all, population, Tim, you said 40,000. Is that approximately what you said? You're looking at maximum of 40,000 people in your area. I'd love to hear from all of you of, who is your customer base? Who is your target customer to come into your tap room?
I can start. We, we're kind of in the last western part of the Rust Belt. And so a lot of our customers, since we're the first brewery in Beloit since like the early 2000s, there was one for like a year. We have a very blue collar, like what's your closest to domestic XYZ. So we currently have only one beer that's always on, and that's a Kolsch. And that's our gateway. I love the style. It's grown so popular that we're actually able to buy a 30-barrel tank just for that beer, because it was usually taking up 2 of my tanks in fermentation. And honestly, from there, it's kind of bonkers. It's a weird dichotomy with our customers, but our double IPA is second behind a Kolsch. So
Wow.
we have the people that come here, they want to have a couple of beers. It's either Kolsch, and then our number 2 seller for the past, since September, has been a double IPA.
What's the name of your Kolsch, Tim?
Hindenburg and a Lightning Storm.
And what's the meaning behind that? I get it, but why have you chosen that?
Well, everything else in the region of Cologne was taken, it felt like. So we just decided to go with the next most German thing, and it was Hindenburg and a Lightning Storm.
So that's a fun beer name.
Yeah.
Clay, how about you? Who's your customer base?
Our customer base is mixed. Our year-rounders, the people who are here, we're a rural county. So similar to that, the most frequently asked beer is you have Bud Light. Oh, you don't know. How about Coors Light? No. Our number 1 beer is an American Light Lager. That's our standard. It's a year-rounder now because it's sold so well, and we keep it always brewing. We're fortunate enough to have a couple horizontals. We have 6 horizontal tanks, so there's always one being served and one being conditioned.
And looking at your audience, Clay, who's coming into your tap room?
It's a mixture. We have we're outside of Charlottesville, Virginia. We're about a half an hour from Charlottesville. We're about 2 hours from DC. So Gordonsville gets a lot of weekenders from DC who are doing the Airbnbs. Let's go out to the country. So we have a lot of those folks. We have the Charlottesville folks who explore on weekends, and we have day trippers from Northern Virginia as well as Richmond, which is about an hour away. But our 6-day-a-weekers, it's our locals. Our people who we are the social center for. And they'll be in several times a week for our, for the burgers, for the beer, for the fun, for the games, for whatever, for the dog park.
I love that you keep saying social center, because that's going to be a concept we dive into deeper in just a little bit. So thanks for that teaser.
You bet.
Kate, you're nodding your head. What does your audience look like?
Yeah, so we have a lot of families. I know kids sometimes are a bad word in breweries, but we love them. My husband and I have 4 kids, and we built a brewery on our family farm, and we wanted it to be a place that we would want to go hang out with. With 4 kids, you don't get a babysitter all the time to go out. So we made sure that there was plenty of space on our brewery lawn where kids could play, adults could have enough space to not get annoyed. And the other thing I was thinking about, one of my bullet points for thinking about small breweries is I think you got to maximize everybody that gets there. So I want to sell as much to the kids as I do to the adults. I think the beer is really what brings people in, but we're going to sell apple juice to the kids, a pony ride, and, so we've got all kinds of offerings. But families, I would say, is kind of our biggest demographic, especially during the growing season. Other than that, we get mostly craft beer drinkers. So, our number 1 beer is whatever IPA is on tap, whatever New England IPA is on tap. Number 2 is an easy drinker. It's a cranberry blonde ale. But yeah, the craft beer drinkers do love our place. So
That's really interesting how much you strive to create an experience. Man, you don't often get pony rides in one of these conversations. So I guess when you look at the guest that comes to your tap room, are they coming for just the pint, or are they coming up for several hours to take advantage of everything you offer?
yeah, that's what we're hoping. We're trying to keep them there for several hours. This past year, we developed a trail around our farm so that they could not only that they could have that experience around the farm, but then we could build experiences for them. So we did a 5K in February. We're going to do another 5K in August, wholly on our property.
Wow.
So I think we all have, I don't know about you guys, but there's over 100 breweries in our tiny little state of Connecticut. So I feel like small town, big town, you know, you have to find like, what is your thing? Why are people coming to you?
No, I love that so much, Kate. No, last question for you before we move on to Sean. What's the name of the 5K?
Oh, it's called our Farm Fields 5K.
So you're focusing on your farm. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to, in August, we'll be able to finish right under where we trellis our hops up. So
A trend I'm seeing from you all just far is so much focus on, you know, owning your locality, owning your small town and getting that pride there. Is that fair to assume?
absolutely.
Yeah. Sean, tell me more about, you know, who's coming to your tap room.
Sure. So, being a small college town, we had the college focus bars. We had let's call it the towny focus bars, and then we had what I'll say is like the faculty and staff of the university bars. And so we were very deliberately trying to create a space where everybody felt comfortable. So I would say it's craft beer focused, but really I think they're coming to a place that's clean and has nice bathrooms would be where we really sort of shine here. But, you know, I remember just a couple of weeks ago coming in on a Saturday and there were 4 bikers at the bar. There was college kids at the tables playing a game that was very, very complicated board game that I've never seen before. And then you'll see 3 or 4 families with very, very little children all in the same space. And that's really what we're going for. We're also right by the train track, so you can probably hear that right now, which is part of the going back to our name. We have a train that goes to Chicago twice a day. Now because of the Forgatonia movement. So as far as like beers, our top seller right now probably is a hazy pale ale, which is back in the Mac. The train station that we have here, their abbreviation is MAC. So a lot of times when the students are coming back, they'll text all their friends, I'm back in the Mac. Other big ones. So we have 2 other sort of house beers. We have a Helles, we're the Helles Forgatonia. And we have a dark lager, essentially a sports beer, which is Friends and Lomax Places. And then outside of that, it's seasonal. So we try to brew everything. All the others is essentially one-offs. And so, right now I've got a Helles Bock that is getting ready to go on. In the summer, everything will start to lighten up. As soon as we hit the fall, we'll start hitting those reds and darker beers. And then once we hit winter, we'll be going into those darker beers and triple IPAs.
Do you feel because you all are in small towns that some of the trends you see nationwide don't matter as much? More so as you focus more on those light American lagers and what your locals want versus what the sourest of sours, haziest of hazy beer going around the national level is happening?
So I'll take that first. So we really see this as a place of education. While I am very tuned into all of those things and things that I am very much seeking out when I go into local, larger areas, I kind of feel like it's in some ways my job to bring that here so that we also have access to those things.
Very interesting. No, Clay, I know last year you brewed a German smoked sour.
We did.
I'm not going to say it correctly. So Lichtenheiner, am I saying that correctly?
Lichtenheiner. We did. We did not call it a Lichtenheiner, though. We thought the name would be massacred, as well as what the hell are you doing? So we called it a smoked sour. It offered a sour. We also put on a Berliner. We thought we would save and use a similar yeast for 2 beers, and we found out that sours may be popular elsewhere, but not in a town of 1,400.
Interesting. I was hoping you'd say that, they went from the Kolsch and they were educated to actually enjoy the sour, but you're seeing them want to stick to what they know, tried and true.
Exactly. I mean, the light lager is our number one all 12 months of the year now, since we've been offering it all through the winter, way far above any of the IPAs.
No, that's a fun debate right now. I'd love to hear from all of you. Are you seeing your audience want to be more adventurous, kind of like you mentioned, Sean, where you're educating them on different styles? Are you seeing them stick to?
We always have a sour on, and it's always now we haven't done a smoked sour. That's a whole different customer, but our fruited sours do very well.
How are you taking a guest from that light American lager to, a sour or something hazier or hoppier?
Flights. That's the easiest way.
Flights, and then also just like I think your offerings, your the spread of what you have on. I can convince somebody who just had a Kolsch to move to the Irish Red because you're just getting a little bit more malt. It's still like a real easy drinking beer. I think taking them through the progression like that is the best way.
A good name also does wonders.
Yeah, I mean, I like all the local references you all shouted out today. Tim, how about you? How are you getting your guests to be a little bit more adventurous, I suppose?
Yeah, we just put beer in front of them, honestly. If they're sitting around the bar, I have no problems putting a double IPA in somebody who's drinking a Kolsch. A lot of our customers, especially when we first opened up, I believe they heard the word IPA and they're like, yeah, it's just too hoppy. It's too, it takes the taste buds away. And like, we really only do hazies. We won an award for a hazy. So we throw those in front of our customers as much as possible. And, a lot of people ask, what are you having me drink? And I will not explain to them what they're having. It's just like, taste it. Like, I don't want you to have a preconceived notion of what I'm putting in front of you. Same thing with sours. Like, ours aren't overly acidic. And again, we overfruit just about everything, add some really fun adjuncts. So then people can then identify something that they've had earlier in their lives with those sours. We're not huge in the pastry thing, but if you describe them in pastries or pies and those kind of acronyms or synonyms, or whatever you want to do, people can identify and the power of suggestion is pretty big. And it's also like, oh, this does taste like XYZ that we're suggesting. Like, we have our sour right now is called Galloping Sounds, and it looks like the Monty Python coconut theme because it's cream of coconut and then a whole bunch of fruit. So then the demographic of that we're trying to hit with that is like, oh, you remember back into the 70s and 80s when Monty Python was like this huge thing, but you are an American light lager drinker or a Kolsch drinker, but the Galloping Sounds resonates with you because you remember the double coconut thing behind. And we've gotten a lot of people to try it and say, oh, this is really good. Like, you're just trying to break stereotypes. At least for us, we're breaking stereotypes of sours, IPAs. I think stouts are well worn in a good way that we don't have to introduce and break a stereotype with those as well.
So Tim, are you seeing those guests who you get to try those more unique beers just trying them, or are they coming to the tap room the next time and actually ordering them?
Yeah. Sales have shown that they actually come and have a pint of them, or if it's a double IPA, a 10 ouncer. So it's breaking the stereotype and be like, oh, I will have a glass of this. I'll still go back to the Kolsch and have another one of those because that's my preferred style, but I'll go outside of that and actually order something else that I probably wouldn't have previously.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Now, Sean, Tim, and Kate, it sounds like you're getting your guests to be a little bit more adventurous. Clay, you're almost playing devil's advocate. It almost feels like your audience wants to roll with the light American lagers, the Kolsches, and you're owning it. Is that what's going on at Patch?
To a great extent. Also, our brewer loves German style, so we pretty much are very much at home in the German style portfolio. So we're, if anything, we would love the reputation to be known as a lager house. So that we've got another lager, we've got a Mexican lager in the tank now for Cinco de Mayo. And we're working on this summer doing probably a smoked Helles. But sticking with lagers as being a key component of what will be us.
Andrew, I don't think there's anything wrong with just keeping the beers on that the people want. We have one, our cranberry blonde ale. It's like we only have 8 taps, so I love to rotate the beers. We probably make 25 beers, but that one has a permanent spot because the people come in asking for it every time, and why not give it to them?
No, I love that. So, one thing we were kind of hinting at is education, the value of educating the guests to come to your doors. And those who are educating your guests are your staff. And in smaller towns, you probably have a little less options when it comes to hiring. I'd love to learn the strategies that you all are doing to just initially find staff and people to work in your tap rooms, what those people are like. Talk to me about, the staff in your tap room. I mean, even feel free to mention the staff in the back of house too, and other roles. I'd love to learn.
Most of my staff, it's something they do on the weekends in addition to their real job. And in many cases, they're here in this town. It's one good thing is that if I have a call out or something happens, I can call people who live only 5 minutes away. So it's easy to find people in that respect. But it is, we're a half hour away from our nearest town of Charlottesville. It's been fun to have, because we are in an old VFW that opened in 1951, to have staff whose parents had their wedding reception in what's now the tap room.
Cool.
Or other people who played here. We have a Boy Scout, a person, a former Boy Scout. He became an Eagle here in the tap room many years ago. So it's kind of nice to have people who know the town, who know everyone who walks in, who's a regular, who now get to see this space in a new iteration.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. Sean, how about you? What's your staff look like and how you find it?
Again, I'm kind of lucky because I've got the university right here. So we have plenty of students. Being in a small town, there's not a ton of job opportunities for them. And so we are one of the more sort of coveted spots. Not that I don't want to say it's easy to find people, but it has been, I guess I'll just say, less difficult. And because you're really we're really trying to find the personality. It's not so much what they know or what they've done before, but if they have the personality to do the job, then we can train everyone. I do monthly beer tender trainings with all of them. So we always have one day every month that we're getting together, trying different beers together, talking about what's happening in the tap room, what's coming up, trying to coerce them to speak out and tell me things that are happening that they would like to see changed or improved upon.
Sean, are you seeing that those that you hire, maybe some from the college or just nearby, they have much experience in beer? Or are you kind of guiding them along the way?
Every once in a while, because so a lot of students are coming from Chicago or the suburbs of Chicago. So every once in a while, we will get people from other breweries or restaurant industry, but a large portion of them, it's the first time. Every once in a while, we'll also get somebody local where it's also a second job that, quite honestly, they just want to be in the in-group. They want to see that behind the scenes. They want to be a part of that beer tender training. So it's not so much the job for them, but having that inside access.
So unfortunately, we don't have time for you to do the entire training with the 5 of us today, but what does that look like, Sean? When you're going through this beer tender training, give us
Sure. So the very first beginning of it is the manager, the taproom manager, getting to update them and say, like, if anything needs a little more help in refreshing their memory on how to do things. Or if anything's coming up, they'll have that space to talk to them. And then I will have a sort of it's almost like a homebrew club. So I've come up with a topic for the week, and maybe it's discussing a style, a process, a piece of equipment that's in the brewery. I mean, it could, really ranges. And then at the very end of it, I'll typically bring somewhere between 2 to 4 beers that I'll share with them, and then we'll all discuss it and work it together.
And this is every week?
Not every week, no, once a month.
Once a month, got it.
I wish I had that kind of time.
Tim, how about you? What's your staff look like, and how are you finding them?
We have a very limited staff. We're a brew pub in Wisconsin, so that does mean we have liquor, wine, and then obviously our beer. being in a emerging market, we'll call it, it has been more difficult to find staff that is really connected to our product. Even though I'm here quite a bit, I still am leaving at 4 or 5 o'clock because I'm here between 7 and 8 in the morning. So a lot of times I'm catching the afternoon shift as they're kind of coming in. So they don't quite know that I have like 8 to 9 hours already under my belts, and, cleaning kegs for, the past, what am I at? 3.5 hours. So some of it gets lost and some of it's on me. Like, I have to stick around and like make sure I have those connections like Sean is talking about. And we're still like figuring that out when you're, a person that is the only one that's doing all the brewing, the cellaring, the packaging. It's difficult for me to stick around past like that 5 o'clock period because I have a couple of kids that I really love and hang out with. And so, we're hopefully this summer, can kind of tackle some of those issues that we have. Our staff is good. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not, but they aren't as connected, to what we do, because a lot of the times they're seeing me at the very end of my shift, which might be a shift beer, and BSing with people that are around and the people at the bar versus like connecting one-on-one with them.
So Tim, we actually have, because we have a tiny little staff too, and I think that's really hard because there's like 1, maybe 2 bartenders on in our busiest days.
Yeah.
And they never overlap with our brewer, and they overlap with me just because I'm here all the time. But to go back to our original question, what I'm looking for is people who can really interact with that guest and who are willing to drink beer, because I can teach them anything about beer that they need to know. But one of the things we do is keep a 3-ring binder with some dry erase papers in there, and we write notes to each other. So there's space for the brewer to write notes to the servers. There's space for the servers to give feedback to the brewer or to me. There's space for me to write in notes about, events or what things are coming up. We can write tasting notes in there. We do have actually a Google spreadsheet with all the tasting notes for every beer, so that they can, if they forget or just want those keywords to use while they're serving, they can go into that spreadsheet and remember, citrus, herbal, whatever.
Kate, one thing that you said that interests me is that notebook and where you leave notes to one another. Can you give me a couple examples if I were to open it up today, what I might find?
So it's gonna tell the bartenders anything from like when this keg kicks, put on this one next, to we're gonna release this beer in a couple of weeks, or and the bartenders can write back like, oh, the customers love this new beer, like, or so, because they hear what people are asking for. So that's like the biggest feedback that the brewer and I need as well. So they can write notes back to that, or they can write operational notes back to me, hey, we need more change in the cash box. We need, more, we ran out of napkins.
You're not taking like some sort of cryptocurrency in your small town in Connecticut yet?
Not yet.
So Kate, you just mentioned like customer feedback. I'm sure customer feedback is extremely important in a small town. What avenues are the 4 of you talking to your guests and achieving that customer feedback? That way you can make sure you hit their expectations.
One of the first things I do is I spend some time behind the bar, and there's really nothing like it. I mean, it's just, you get to hear everything. So during the summer when it's super busy, I probably spend less time back there, but I do still try to pop in for a little bit to really hear the exact, but otherwise you got to be in communication with your bartenders.
Yeah, just talking to your staff, talking to your guests. How about you, Clay? How are you listening to your guests or learning from them?
I agree with Kate. Hopping behind the bar is the best way. And I'm scheduled regularly. And then if I know that the weather is going to be gorgeous, I will pop by to give extra support. I'll definitely be the pourer so the folks can then focus on the POS and the customers.
And Clay, you're telling the truth because the first time I ever came to Patch, you're the one who served me a beer before we actually met professionally.
Yep. I'm still, I do a 5-hour shift every week.
What's something you've learned recently from your 5-hour shift?
Let's see. Recently, I've learned from the 5-hour shift that there aren't as many day drinkers as the owners wish there were. So that we've got a regular crowd that comes by for lunch on Fridays, and they will buy. Sometimes they'll just have tap water. Maybe they'll go for a Diet Coke. But by and large, they appreciate though the burgers. So this little town has a couple other restaurants, but the only place where they serve burgers is Hardee's. So I'm happy to be able to outsell Hardee's some days.
Are the burgers something you do in-house, or do you have a partner who runs the kitchen?
We've acquired our own food trailer, so we have a permanent food truck. It's on wheels, so it can move, because according to state law, it has to be able to move a foot a year. So we can roll it, but it's ours. And so we're able to then take all the orders right when we take the beers. It's all on the same tab, all on the same tip share.
Awesome. Now, Sean and Tim, how are you interacting with guests and learning from them?
Social media is a lot. I mean, through Instagram, through Facebook, through our newsletter, also definitely through the staff. We don't have a notebook, but we use a product called Sling. It does all of the scheduling, but then within Sling, you also have news groups and direct messaging. So we do a lot of it through, we have a lot of college students working here, so they're very much tuned into working with their phones. Mm-hmm. So I can get, direct messages from them at the time of whatever it is they're going through or what they've heard, or so that's the big one for us.
Awesome. Tim, how about you?
Yeah, mine is during the day, going out and talking, just touching tables, or we have members. It's a pretty limited group. Of about 50 or so, but a lot of them I know personally, and so I'll make sure I go and chat with them. I'll take beer out of fermentation just so they can taste it and they get like this experience. And even then, like, I'm trying to shape what they would like, because we have a good contingent here that's always looking for an amber or red ale. I happen to know Kirby Smart. And he makes one of the best ambers in all of Wisconsin. He lagers it for a long time. He uses all German stuff. And for, $10 a six pack, I can't compete. I much rather them just go and buy that stuff because it's hands down the best. It's not typically our style. I am like Clay. We do like our easy drinking lagers. We have a 15 barrel dedicated just for lager, but it's never going to really probably ever get an amber. Because I think Kirby does, some of the best amber in our state. And so it's like, go and buy that, because you'll get 6 times the amount of beer than you'll get for like 1 pint here at G5. And we could put our own spin on it. I get all of that. And I understand arguments for it. They were really putting the screws to me last week about it, but it's like, that yields really well for us. And I have my own inventory system that calculates how many, or like basically a depletion of kegs per week. And I have done that amber for them, and it does not sell super great. Mm-hmm. So, and they're a bunch of engineers, and they've seen the numbers. Like, I don't hide behind them. I'm like, hey, look, this is my computer. Excel is telling me what it's doing. Why would I brew that? So I have to pay the bills just like everybody else. And it goes back to educating or expanding some horizons, because lo and behold, they're talking about amber ale and 3 of the 4 are drinking hazy IPA.
Tim, I want to go a little bit deeper in the beer styles. Besides looking for data, how often are you talking to the guests across the bar about what they want to see on tap?
Quite often. I'm really curious. I know the national trend is this lager theme, and we only have the 1 tank, and we don't really want to do much in our 10s. So the 15's a really short squatty that mimics the best that we can for a horizontal. it's not produced a bad beer. We really love what it does, but we're not going to rush anything. And yeah, it's not really talking about what they want, but it's talking about what we offer and then how we put our own spin on it. So while it's nice to hear what people do want, I don't necessarily want to brew what a lot of people, I mean, unless it's a unanimous, like, snowball coming right at my face. It tends to be few and far between that they'll consume, or many people will consume. We do find that people will ask for it and they'll sit down and have a pint of it. Like, people wanted a pumpkin beer when we first opened up. So you know what? We did it. And pumpkin is just one of those things that either you love it or you hate it. They'll come and have one pint of it. And now I'm stuck with 20 flipping half barrels.
Tim, I totally agree. I mean, I think having a point of view in this brewery, atmosphere is so important. And sticking to your point of view is, I think, really just going to make or break a business. You
have to have a vision, right? And and you kind of shape your vision to who's coming in and be like, I hear what you're saying. I understand it, but we're doing these styles really flipping well. And I hope that you appreciate that we're doing these styles really well.
That's a fun challenge. I mean, it kind of contrasts with, you want to educate but you also want to sell beer. So you have to find that healthy mix of what's going to sell and what they're going to drink and what they're willing to try. So we talked a little bit about, educating your staff on the beers that you all offer, like leaving tasting notes and things like that, and having trainings, monthly or more frequently. But how are you training your team? And this is something you mentioned, Kate, to engage with the guests. What strategies for success are you teaching your staff members in the tap room to best engage with the guests to get them where they're going to want to hang out longer and spend more money?
That's a good one. Did you direct that to me?
You can take it if anyone else wants to jump in, like Clay. I see you opening your mouth there.
I would say is why, when you chat with potential employees, applicants, see who is engaging.
Yeah.
We could teach people the tasting notes. It's harder to teach them to be nice and how to be engaging. So you can find that right person who is a front of house person, or you've got the person who is meticulous to details and they'll be great in the food truck. Go with what people's natural abilities are, and then just teach them beer.
Yeah, I think it's a lot in the hiring. I have bartenders who can say, it's exhausting to me to do a 5-hour shift behind the bar because I'm more of an introvert, but I've got bartenders who will talk to people all day long. And I think that's really what they want to know. People who are willing to learn the history of your bar. Like Sean's obviously got a great story behind his, who will chat that up to the customers because they want to hear all that stuff.
Anyone else got any tips for, getting your staff to engage at a high level?
Secret hopper.
Well, I appreciate that, Sean.
I mean, you do. Yeah, unfortunately, we're out in the middle of nowhere, so it's not as easy. But we can still implement some of those findings, like, and you hate to put everything into just financial terms, but just showing them that if they can sell a little bit of beer to go, or if they can sell some merchandise that's going to raise up that price and potentially their tips as well, and making those connections with the people is going to encourage them to make those purchases.
Yeah, that upsell, you got to do it. You got to train your staff because they want to make money. They might as well make as much as they can while they're on that 5-hour shift. No, we had a question in the comments, and it's also something that I wanted to cover. You have a set amount of people who live in your locality. How much time are you all spending to marketing to people outside? I know, Clay, you mentioned Charlottesville, DC. You're trying to get those out-of-towners to come to the weekend. How are you marketing to them? What results are you seeing? Clay, I'd love to learn a little bit. How are they finding you, and how are you making that experience what they're looking for?
Two different aspects. Actually, probably three. One is doing Google ads, but targeted. Aiming at certain ages, certain zip codes is one way, so that will appear on some people's pages. The second thing is that I've made a reach out to the people who run the Airbnbs locally, as well as the local hotels, anything within 10, 15 miles, and talking to the front desk staff, giving gift cards to the front desk staff so we can get the referrals from them. And then the third part is Charlottesville is, granted it's a half hour away, but it is a tourist mecca. So we're all of us in the, the breweries and restaurants, we refer to each other. So if a person comes to one bar and says, I'm looking for something else to go, well, what do you like? Well, then you should try hit this place, and that place. And often I think that referral system, we're friendly competitors, with the emphasis on we've all got to swim. So we do a lot of referrals to other people, and a lot of people refer to us, especially if they find that someone likes lagers. Oh, then you got to go up to Patch.
Anyone else using unique strategies to recruit tourists to come visit?
I mean, we're definitely using social media, targeted ads, and kind of zooming out that radius to at least 30 or 45 miles around our area. And that's because we're in a very highly populated state. So you might have to do it even farther for places.
Sean, how about you? Are you recruiting anybody?
I mean, the closest breweries for us are at least an hour away. So
wait, say that one more time. The closest
brewery is an hour away, and that was being Quincy. So we're in contact with the other breweries around here. So we're doing the same thing, referring each other. We do have the train station here, so we're working on a event with another brewery where they're going to send people on the train here, and we're going to send people on the train there, and then the brewers are going to give them the tour, tastings, that sort of thing, and then of course send them back. And you can drink on a train, so it works out pretty well there. We're really looking at alumni events at the university. So anytime there's an alumni event that comes through, anytime there's a conference on campus, something like that, then we're definitely pushing those social media ads targeted to those specific things. That's, we kind of just understand that we are in the middle of nowhere. And if you end up here, it's because you very much made it a priority.
One additional thing that we did also is creating some rack cards. So like normally you see those nice little narrow 1/3 of a page things often in hotels, is we've given those to the people who have Airbnbs. So that's in the welcome basket is a little thing about us.
Yeah, we did that with the chamber.
Yeah. Clay, are you trading any beer to the people who, run those Airbnbs, or how are you encouraging them to, promote for you?
They have seen that if people are engaged and they like the area, they'll come back and refer others. So it's a word of mouth.
It's a perk. No, I like it. No, all of you had talked about the importance of the community. I don't think I need you to explain why having the community support your business is important, but I want to talk about the events that you've done with your community to get them to come there. Before we talk about all the winners, the events that have just been amazing, packed houses, I would like to hear from each of you something you did in your tap room, whether it's an event, maybe a promotion, that didn't go as planned. Call it a failure, call it what you will, a learning experience. Is there something that you thought would be a great idea that just didn't pan out? Does anybody have anything they're willing to share?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, everybody's on this one. Clay, go for it.
Baby showers. We did a baby shower. They reserved 75 seats. So we had a whole bunch of tables. Sales were $2 bottles of water.
So you got people there, though.
They got people there. They had a good time, but they brought their own food and drink.
Okay. But at least you generated awareness for your space.
It was a lot of space, and we didn't charge anything for it. So now we charge an F&B minimum.
There you go. You learn from it. Tim, how about you?
Yeah, our membership used to include Tell Me What to Brew 4 times a year. The first couple went really, really well. Then this pandemic thing happened, and then we brought it back last year full time. And for me to do that, I do it on a Saturday, so that's a 6 day of work, another 9-hour day, and I got a maximum of 4 and 5 people to show up to those things. And we did an online vote, and they were very vocal about that. But then when it came to the actual experience, which we thought was a premium to become a member, it really fell on its face last year, and it's no longer a part of our membership anymore. We took that out and gave them more incentives to come into the brewery itself. Rather than
charging the same for the membership?
Yeah.
So it's less work on your end and hopefully more traffic in the tap room.
Yeah. Right.
Sounds like a good learning experience there.
Yeah.
Kate, how about you? Has there been anything that you've learned from?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to call it a general category of like what everybody else is doing. So, for example, we started off pretty well with trivia. But, when there's trivia like at every restaurant in town every night of the week, our trivia came down to like only the people who were winning. And one guy bought one bottle of Snapple and, won a $30 gift card every time. So we just stopped doing that. We're trying to stay ahead of the curve in terms of events, and then also just turn to really what can we do on our farm that, if you have a brewery in a shopping center or something like that, you can't do. So the event game has become so competitive.
We're going to dive into that. in a
And
minute.
sorry, just Clay, the baby showers in the morning. That was the other. I did a baby shower and I booked it for the morning and I didn't even think through. Luckily, I have a minimum amount of sale.
But do you think, looking at those two baby showers you both mentioned, do you think the attendees maybe came back? Do you think there was the awareness ploy there where, that you might not have made a lot of money, but they appreciated you sharing the space and they'll come back maybe when they're able to drink or bring their families at some other point in time?
They definitely said they would. Yeah.
Hope so.
I hope so. I just have also learned probably not to do one of those on a Saturday night again.
Right.
Fair enough. Sean, learning experience?
For us, we're kind of a small space. We definitely push we want to be the small place that looks busy, not the big place that looks empty. And so ticket events have been something that never really worked out well for us. So if you think of things like yoga, or we recently just did one, which was a seed starting event. Now, these are other businesses that are running it. So we still do it because it's very easy on us and something to promote. But we've definitely noticed that as soon as you put a ticket price in front of something, it definitely hinders the amount of people who come out.
That's good insight there. Does anybody else have any experiences with that, trying to charge for something and not working out?
Well, we do a monthly arts crafts event. And some of them are very successful. The Bob Ross night is a big hit. And then we also paint a beer stein and get to keep it. But some of the other things have not been quite as popular.
Now, for all of you, we talked about some things that didn't go as planned. What are your standout events? Is there anything that you do you feel has a more localized feel versus just your generic trivia, karaoke? You know where I'm going with that. Is there anything that you feel really encapsulates your culture of your community that people just get really excited for and has been successful?
We have some big live music events that people look forward to every year now. In fact, I think we're going to start calling them, third annual, fourth annual, to kind of give it like a festival kind of feel to it. Those have been the biggest events.
Everyone else, events that have been winners?
We're going to say the complete opposite. The trivia kills here. So we do very well with trivia. We also do a music bingo and we do a vinyl record night. Those are all sort of our slower days that really, really helps out. We also do a charitable beer for good where we'll work with a local nonprofit with them to create a beer. I'll even bring them in here to help mash out and mash in just to get a couple of social media photos for that. They'll name the beer and then we'll usually have a big kickoff event for that. We do local live music, which also does very well, especially since we don't charge for it.
We have a busy cornhole league every Wednesday night in the good weather. And then and then we also have a darts league the same night. So that attracts people, whether they want to be, the more quieter indoor darts people or the cornhole folks outdoors. So we get good turnouts on those on Wednesday nights.
Do you all find that you have become a hub for your community? And if so, why do you feel you have become in that position where people come to your place as the go-to spot? Like what, if you had to bring it all together, has resulted in that success?
Well, for us, we're the biggest space in town. Being the old VFW that seats 175 plus, the hall when it was a VMW was the overflow for the funeral parlor, which only seats 50. So on very popular people, they would hold the services here in this hall. So the people locally this is where graduations were held as rain sites. This is where the Boy Scouts did their stuff, the Girl Scouts, the Little Miss Whatevers on the stage. So this is kind of for decades has been the gathering place. We do a lot of birthdays right now, anywhere from 1-year-olds to we did a 70-year-old birthday recently. We also did recently a wake for a deceased pet, which is a little unusual. I haven't done one of those before, but they brought their photos, gathered around, and told stories.
And they drank beer, Clay, right?
They did.
That's important.
But fortunately, since I am, unlike perhaps at Frogatonia, we are a big hall, and rarely do I have all spaces filled. I'd love it when they are, but I can accommodate the pet wakes easily on any day.
Kate, how about you? Did you always envision you would be a community center, or do you feel you are? And if so, how did you get there?
Yeah, I think we are, not just for our town though, but for kind of like the greater area. We're always being told that people love our vibe, right? So where does that vibe come from? I think it comes everywhere from the bartender to the music that's playing just over our house stereo, to how we set up our space, to just the attitude of probably just the fact that it's on a farm kind of has this relaxed vibe. But I think it just makes it very welcoming place for everybody. The fact that you can bring your kids, you can bring your dog, you can, kind of make it whatever kind of space you want.
Tim, how about you? Do you feel you've become a community center?
Yeah, to a degree. We're not, so like a town of 40,000 or like Macomb, Sean, when you have like a population somewhat centered, you have a downtown, it's established. We're not even close to, I shouldn't say not, it's a small town, but we're like 4 miles from like downtown. So people have to come out to see us. We're a destination versus like park and go to maybe a couple other places. With a full brew pub, we are a restaurant as well. So we have like a one-stop shop if you're going to go out for a night. But we do feel like Fridays and Saturdays are gathering places because we are a larger building like Clay is talking about, where, those kind of opportunities don't exist a lot in our town, where you can get, 10, 12 family members together and all sit around a table like you're kind of at home and have a pint, maybe a couple of appetizers and share them and just kind of catch up with each other. Or alumni, we're getting there little by little, and people are discovering, what we have. And, we have a really beautiful building, and it's really easy once you finally come here to come back.
No, I love that. Sean, anything else you'd like to add?
I was just going to say, never underestimate the power of clean bathrooms.
Yeah.
Well, you're better than those townie bars, Sean. And here in Virginia, we don't use the word townie, but I love it. So
well, some people love it, some people don't. I personally think it's great.
Well, speaking of locals, we've talked a little bit about how you're marketing to your local audience, but at the end of the day, you want the guests coming to your spaces, having an amazing experience, and pitching what you do to someone else and bringing them back in. So if you could say in like one sentence, maybe 5 words, what do you want that customer telling the next person? What would that be? What's going to be their pitch to get more people to come to your beautiful brewery?
Great beer, great vibe. I think
Great
you got to
beer.
lead. You got to lead with the beer.
Yeah, that's definitely the anchor.
Yeah, I'd say your backyard with better beer.
Oh, I like that one, Clay. And a baseball field there.
Exactly.
For us, I would say it's inviting, making sure that everybody knows that they're welcome here.
Well, you don't have another brewery for, what you said, like almost 100 miles?
Pretty close to it, yeah.
Tim?
Yeah, I'll echo what other people are saying. We care about our beer. I hope our staff realizes that we care this much about our beer, and our people that come in, I work hard for my money as you all do. So I know everybody else works pretty hard for their money. So I want them to sit down and have that experience. And also to know that we're continually like curious about this thing that we do. That's why we do change our menu so often, is because I'm listening to stuff from, CBP. I'm listening to master brewers. I'm going out and doing collabs with other friends of mine because we want to know it's working in other markets, bring it to our market, and challenge what we do here too. I'm a former educator, so I really take this to heart of like, I never want to stop learning. There's people who are master brewers, and I feel like if I ever called myself a master brewer, I own my own island, and I can dedicate and tell everybody how to do it the best way. And I know that the education, and there's people that are really great at it, and they've, paid a lot of money, and they might get paid a lot of money. That's just not the world that I live in. And so, yeah, it's just being curious, have fun with it, and do your best at what you do.
Tim, I love the fact that how curious you are. And I had planned to wind down with that question, but now I'm just curious. For the four of you, Tim, you hinted at it. You're in a place you're often isolated. It's sometimes more challenging to connect with others. The four of you wear so many different hats. You're at the brewery countless hours. Final question for you. What strategy do you use to, focus on your mental health, build relationships with others to keep learning? Is there something you do for you that you feel makes you a better person? Whether for you personally or you, as a business.
I have two things. It's staying really rooted and connected to my 2 and 4-year-old and my wife. And then also selfishly, get the heck out of here and do a collab a month. Like, get your stuff in order. Everything's done here. Get out and just connect with another member that's a part of this like amazing community that we have. We have the good fortune, or I have the good fortune of being able to just leave at 6 o'clock in the morning and go, an hour or 2 hours in any direction in Wisconsin and like land upon a friend and connect with them over a few beers and some fun ideas that we came up together when we do collabs.
Tim, that question was meant for you, and I can't wait to see you in Milwaukee in June.
I know. I'm excited.
Yeah, I love it. Kate, how about you?
Yeah, I think getting off the farm is always really important for our family. Just, telling myself that I'm a terrible micromanager. It's definitely one of my downsides. Just reminding myself that we have good people who work for us, who can take care of, whatever's going to happen that day on the farm, at the brewery. So yeah, just getting out of town is a good refresh, going to get inspiration from outside.
So that's funny because, when I get out of town, I'm probably going to your small town. That's my getaway.
Yeah.
Clay?
Well, getting out of town sometimes for us means going to one of your breweries too.
I think it's important to separate yourself and go to new places though. Like Tim, you mentioned, like it's great going into meeting people outside of your general area because you can learn so much from them, and that experience can bring insight back to your tap room or brewery.
Always.
Clay?
The other thing besides beer that I'm really involved in is animal rescue. So that at home right now we have 6. We're foster home for 6 additional dogs in addition to our usual pack of 4. So off time is taking a dog to a brewery or to a restaurant or to a food truck and introducing them to new people, new situations. It also gives me a chance to drink and eat, which is always fun to do anyways. But when I'm not here, I'm often with the dogs. And even in the tap room, I'll often leave the bar if I can and go pet and meet some other new dog that's just walked in.
Very cool. Sean?
State guilds I'm a big fan of. So we were just recently at our annual conference. And so being able to get that connection with so many other people in the industry is really good. And then the other thing I'll say, in like not getting away, but finding time to go to your brewery that you're not in charge. So, a big part of having the brewery was because I wanted a space that I wanted to go to. So, I try to find at least one time a week that I'm coming here as a customer. Now, I'm still going to get asked questions, and people are still going to come up to me and ask about what beer's coming up next, and that's okay. But I'm trying to come there to see it, from the perspective of the customer, but also to just having a space where I can enjoy it also.
No, I love that. Well, listening and learning from you for today has been fantastic. Clay, Sean, Tim, Kate, I hope everybody listening found the strategies and insight you've shared, really valuable. And I appreciate you so much for sharing this insight. And I can't wait. I visited Clay's brewery before, but I guess I have to add 3 more destinations to my future road trip list. So I can't wait to share pints with all of you. Thanks for sharing your experiences. It's going to be a great year. We'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Cheers.